Hey, what is up everyone? So it's been an interesting week for Sea of Thieves. We've gotten a lot of new teasers and information for Sea of Thieves Season 15. And since that video I made last week talking about Season 15, we've gotten the title screen for the new season. We've gotten some information directly from the news blog for the month about what's actually coming in the February update, because if you don't know already, Season 15 is going to be split up in terms of how the content's released throughout the 3-month period. So we won't be getting everything at launch next week. And then we also got today an interesting teaser from Sea of Thieves that's probably their most creative piece of marketing. I'll leave a link to that video for you if you want to check it out, but I'll also be showing it off in this video. But it was a pretty funny conspiracy theory type video with some handheld footage and kind of making it feel like a real thing that was happening within the world of Sea of Thieves. And I just thought it was really creative and cool to see, and I hope that they keep up that kind of marketing throughout the season because I think that would be really fun to go along with that type of theme. But with that said, we have a lot to cover in this video. I will say right off the bat though, I debated whether or not to hold off on making this video till tomorrow because I have a feeling we probably will get a news update video tomorrow talking about the season more in depth. And if we do, and if I think there's a significant amount of information that we haven't talked about in this video, I probably will make another video following up with that. But just keep that in mind, that's kind of what I'm expecting, is that we'll hear more official information tomorrow or at the very latest next Tuesday. So I think the best way to start off is look at the actual news blog that they gave, and then we can dive into more of the visual teasers that we have. So last week they released a news blog that was talking about everything that was happening in Sea of Thieves during February. And if you don't know already, there's going to be this event going on this weekend from February 14th to the 20th. So basically starting on Valentine's Day all the way till when the update releases next week, you'll be able to participate in these dark fortress raids, which will have you fighting ghost fleets and phantoms around sea forts. And that sounds pretty cool. It sounds like, a little bit of a twist on the normal sea forts that we have. And since the sea forts are one of my favorite things in the game, I'm excited for this event. I'm hoping that we have some cosmetics to go along with this, and it's not just a gold reward for it. I don't see anything that's saying that we're going to get a cosmetic for it, so, don't be too disappointed. But that's just something that you should know about that's going on before the Season 15 update releases. Really what we're here to talk about in this video is what they actually said about the Season 15 launch. So it's happening next Thursday on February 20th, and in the news blog it says with this update we'll be getting the expansion for the Hunter's Call from their Lonely Sea post to all the outposts. And we've already seen this in-game a little bit. If you'll notice that there's a new part of the dock that's been added next to where the merchants and the shipwright are, and that's going to be where the Hunter's Call is. As expected, you'll be able to go there and set up your emissary and access the company shop and basically everything that you do with the other trading companies currently. The news blog also mentions 2 new Megalodon variants, the Feared Red Maw and the Barnacle Dread, which we get to see in today's teaser. And we also saw it in last week's teaser that we got with the image, and if you didn't see the image or you didn't see that video from last week, I'll show it again here. I believe this is going to be the Barnacle Dread right here, because you kind of see all the barnacles and stuff on it. And I think we're right that this is an armored shell. I talked about that in last week's video. These 2 new Megalodons are a lot bigger than the normal ones we have in the game, and they both have special abilities compared to regular Megalodons. So like we talked about in last week's video, I think the Barnacle Dread that we have here has an armored shell that's going to be a little bit harder to attack. I'm interested to see if it has any other abilities. I could also imagine maybe that it's almost like a hammerhead type thing where, it rushes at you and maybe can knock your ship a lot harder than say a normal Megalodon, maybe pushing you back further even if you're anchored or causing significant more damage, so you have to be a lot more careful with this Megalodon to fight. Something like that could be interesting, but I don't know if that would be that interesting for players that are used to the regular Megalodons, just having something that's a little bit more powerful. I don't know if that would be that interesting. However, the Feared Red Maw, which we got to see a little bit in the teaser today, that one looks a little bit more interesting. I think that will be more of a challenge for players. But then the blog post also mentions something else that's interesting. However, the way they worded it makes me think that it's not actually going to come out with this update. So here's the exact way they said it. But that's not all. Expect new voyages, hunting spears, untamed wildlife, and plenty more surprises to arrive throughout the season. So that makes me think that all of that I just said there is not coming out with the launch of Season 15. But they talked about new voyages. I think we can assume that some of the voyages are going to include fishing voyages like we got with past fishing events in the game, and probably a voyage relating to Megalodons. I'm hoping if we do get a Megalodon voyage, it comes out with the release of Season 15, because if it's just the 2 new Megalodon variants are just, randomly occurring and stuff, that won't be that interesting to me. I think we need something that's a little bit more dedicated to be able to find these Megalodons. Other things that are coming in the season are hunting spears, which in my mind could be two different things. It could either be one, a new type of permanent weapon slot, similar to how we have with the new grapple gun or blowpipe and that kind of stuff, where it's something that you equip from the armory, or more likely, it's going to be something that you find in the world, like the tridents in the game. And then we also have untamed wildlife, which I think we saw a little bit of that with the birds here in the teaser, but other than that, I'm interested to see what they actually have planned for untamed wildlife. So with that said, let's go over to the title screen that we got for Season 15. And let me just say, The Ballad of the Mer is one of my favorite songs that they've done in Sea of Thieves, and for the title screen music that we got for this season, it's a different rendition of that original song. So I think that's really cool. I have it playing as the background music for this video, so you'll be able to hear it that way as well. And I really like it. In terms of what we actually get to see in this teaser, there is some interesting things to pull out. Obviously, some stuff we already saw. So we have like this new Hunter's Call chest, which we saw in the previous teaser. That's pretty cool. And then it looks like we have some additional treasures with these Hunter Call bags that are surrounding the title screen here. And those are interesting, I think. They kind of look like, they basically are kind of the equivalent of like a skull or like a trinket for the gold hoarders and the Order of Souls. So that's kind of how I would picture this. You have like your main treasure that's like the two-handed treasure, and then you have your one-handed treasures with these little bags. Another thing we see here, this I don't think is a treasure. This looks like a voyage that you put on your table. So you notice that like all the different trading companies, they have like different types of like voyages that it looks like when you're going and putting them on the quest table and then you're voting for them. That's what I think this is. This is like what the Hunter's Call voyages will look like. So that's pretty cool. We have this telescope, which at first glance, it just looks like a very unique and interesting looking telescope. But if you notice these here, these two pieces of red glass here for the telescope are very similar to a Megalodon eye. So I have a feeling this will go along with the Megalodon voyages that I mentioned earlier, if we get those, or it'll go along with the two new ancient Megalodons and have something to go along with that instead. I'm pretty interested to see how that develops. I think it's a very unique looking telescope. It could also just be, a reward for the season pass. Who knows, really? I have a feeling it's part of the voyage, but we'll have to wait and see about that. If you look at the top here, it kind of blends in really well here, so you almost could miss it. But these are the hunting spears right here. So they're hitting right into the board. We also saw it in the main teaser, so if you look at like the Wild Things logo, it has a spear in it. So we've gotten to see this a few times. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how it actually works and if it'll be good for combat and other stuff. We also have these Megalodon teeth that are hanging up above. I think that would be really cool to see as like decorations for like trinkets on your ship and stuff. Not sure if that's going to be a part of the plan here, but that would be really cool. I could also see it just being some decorations that they add for the new Hunter's Call spots at the different outposts. We also have this boar here, which at first glance, if you didn't see like these tusks, you'd think it's just like a regular pig, but this is a boar here, and that could either be a pet or that could be the new untamed wildlife that they're talking about. I have a feeling we won't see too much about this boar here until later on in the season, just based off the wording of that message that we saw in the blog post. Then finally, the one main thing that I've seen people talking about a lot online is this island that's in the background. And there's two islands that keep popping up about what it could be. And the first one is Tribute Peak from the Shores of Gold, and the other one is Shipwreck Bay. I don't know exactly which one this is. I think it looks a little bit more like Tribute Peak. However, I could also see this being Shipwreck Bay. It honestly might just be a detail in the background that has no significance to the season, so I'm not too concerned about this. However, if it is Tribute Peak, it'd be really interesting to see if we get like a new voyage that utilizes that island. Because that's something I've been talking about in the past before, which I would like to see them utilize Tribute Peak as a new place for a special type of voyage. And if they did that this season, that would be really cool. So that covers everything here with this teaser. Let's go ahead and jump into the final teaser that we have. So this final teaser is really fun. It starts off with this like handheld footage, and we get to see the Feared Maw, which is this fire Megalodon that has like this bite. You can notice right when it goes in for the ship and it bites the ship, it basically releases what amounts to like a keg exploding on a ship, where it has just this huge explosion of fire and fire's covering the ship and everything. And that's really an interesting aspect of this. So if you don't know already, you can actually stop a Megalodon charging at you. So this is not something that you have to inevitably get attacked by. Even with the normal Megalodons, if you shoot the Megalodon a few times in a row as it's charging, it will stop its charge attack at you. So that's something really good to know about, and I think it's going to be especially key with these ancient Megalodons and how to actually fight them in the game, especially if you're going to take these on solo. We also see in this teaser a better look at the barnacle dread, which looks really cool. It's kind of hard to tell the size difference just based off some of these videos. However, if you look back at that Feared Maul clip, the Megalodon is essentially the same size as the Galleon, which I would say that the current Megalodon, I'd have to look again, but I would say that's more similar to the size of the sloop. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much bigger these Megalodons are compared to the regular Megalodons. So I think that's really cool to see. In the teaser, they talk a little bit, just kind of more goofy type stuff about, like, you know, Megalodon and how dangerous they are and kind of making jokes about that. But we get to see some more clips about Megalodon. You can see that the Feared Maul is basically just on fire as it's swimming through the water, which is a really cool look to see with that. Other than that, there's not too much else to pull from this trailer, just some nice glimpses of these new ancient Megalodons, which I think are really cool to see, and I'm excited to actually try them out in the game. But I'd be interested to hear what y'all think about each of these Megalodons. What do you think the abilities of each of these Megalodons are going to be, and are you excited about them? But that covers everything we currently know about Sea of Thieves Season 15. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you like and subscribed. And if you didn't notice, I know a lot of people were commenting on the last two videos about the mic quality. Hopefully it's better this time. I got a new mic. This is the first time I'm using it for a video. So glad to report that that has been hopefully fixed. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye y'all.